The main issue with having First Strike as your main rune is that not only this rune relies on you striking first, but it also has really useless runes in the relevant parts of the game. If we are to search for the rune itself, let's go for the inspiration tree. We have First Strike itself, which is 10% damage increase for it, which translates to 10 damage for every 100 damage dealt. The HP champions have at level 1 is around 600, depending on your items. 500, and of course depending on what sort of champions they are as well. And of course, when you have to choose the runes on First Strike, you need to choose one of these 9 runes. If you go with Perfect Timing, this rune doesn't exist. You have no rune. If you go with Magical Footwear, you have no rune. If you go with Hextech Flash, you guess you still have no rune. It doesn't help you to fight the enemy mid. It doesn't help you to fight anyone. And this is only for the 1v1. When it comes to the secondary tree, the best thing you can do to have some sort of aggression early is to get biscuits. And most of the time people just go Futures Market, which sucks. The only argument you could have against this is to play Minion Dematerializer. And if you play Minion Dematerializer, again, it's maybe good to get the push in, but what happens if the enemy jungler and the enemy mid forces either you or the bot lane or the enemy jungler to go in a combat? It's either through invading the raptors, taking their scuttle crab, or just taking drakes or fighting bot. Sure, you push the wave a bit faster. This is just copium, by the way. I think this is a very shit rune, which also comes at the cost of having eyeball collection. Sure, you instantly kill a minion, you have more damage than on minions, but if you have eyeball collection, you could potentially have the damage itself to help you clear the waves faster. It's just a different way that only relies on damaging the minions, not damaging the champions. And then you have Cosmic Insight, which this is probably the worst rune possible in the game when it comes to baiting people. What kind of value do you actually get from this in a real game? Let's say you have to fight people at first, you lose the trade, but then you have flash faster. Well, you still don't have flash during that trade, and they force you to fight. Again, a dragon, or they dive you, or they force a 2v2 randomly. You may say you just don't fight, but what happens then is that your jungler loses pressure, loses levels, and then he becomes useless. If that happens, it doesn't matter you have your flash. The enemy mid, the enemy jungler, or whoever else has item advantage, so it compensates your flash with stats. It's just a useless, worthless rune. And then you consider the fact that you play against real aggressive champions that have electrocute no matter what, while you have nothing. And again, even if this game on mid lane was reliant on 1v1, and it is not, if it was reliant on just the lane phase itself, and it's not, you still don't have with that rune the damage to stat check conqueror champions like Xin or Hecarim or Shyvana or something really strong that wants to fight you. So your argument is just give objectives, and that doesn't happen in solo queue. It's not going to ever happen. Even if there are 3 players in your team that agree with your mindset, it's enough for one not to agree and you lose the game. It's just not ever going to happen. It's copium. This rune tree doesn't exist, and first strike is bait. And some people would say maybe you get gold from first strike to buy items. But let me ask you this: what do you do with the gold? What do you do with gold? Well, with gold you buy items, right? But what do you do with items? You deal damage. But let me ask you something else. What do you do if the enemy has already damage in his runes? Then with damage, he kills you since you don't have the gold yet, because these runes don't exist early game, right? And then he gets further more items than you, and your rune that requires you to win to get gold. It just doesn't make sense.